My name is Mark Johnson, and this is the story of how my marriage fell apart. It's not a tale filled with dramatic twists or excessive melodrama, just the plain, unvarnished truth as I experienced it. My wife Lisa and I had been married for 8 years before things began to unravel. We lived in a small town in Ohio, a place where everyone knew everyone else, and secrets were hard to keep. I worked as an insurance adjuster for a mid-sized company in Cincinnati. The job wasn't glamorous, but it paid the bills and provided a steady routine. Lisa was a nurse at the local hospital. We met in college, fell in love quickly, and got married right after graduation. For a long time, life was good. We had a nice house, 2 cars, and a dog named Max. We didn't have kids yet, but we were planning to start a family soon. Things started to change about a year ago. Lisa began working more night shifts, which wasn't unusual for a nurse. But it started to feel like she was always at the hospital. She'd come home tired, barely talk to me, and go straight to bed. I chalked it up to the demands of her job. Nursing is hard work, and I didn't want to add to her stress by complaining, but then small things began to bother me. Lisa's phone was always on silent, and she was constantly texting someone, often smiling at her screen. When I asked who she was talking to, she'd say it was just a friend from work. I didn't think much of it at first. Lisa was friendly and had a lot of work friends. One evening, while she was in the shower, I noticed her phone buzz with a message. I shouldn't have looked, but curiosity got the better of me. The message was from someone named Rob and read, "Can't wait to see you tonight." My heart sank. I didn't know any Rob, and it certainly didn't sound like a message between platonic friends. For a few days, I tried to ignore what I'd seen. I convinced myself that there had to be a reasonable explanation. Maybe Rob was just a colleague who Lisa was meeting for a work-related reason. But the doubt gnawed at me. I started paying more attention to Lisa's behavior, looking for any signs that could either confirm or dispel my suspicions. One night, Lisa mentioned that she had to cover an extra shift at the hospital. I decided to check her story. I called the hospital to ask for her, pretending I had an urgent need to speak with her. The receptionist told me Lisa wasn't scheduled to work that night. My stomach churned. I thanked the receptionist and hung up, feeling a mix of anger and betrayal. When Lisa came home that night, I confronted her. I asked where she had been and why she had lied about working. She seemed taken aback, stammered a bit, and then said she had gone out with some friends and didn't want to upset me by admitting it. Her explanation didn't sit right with me, but I didn't push further that night. I needed time to think and figure out what to do next. Over the next few weeks, my suspicions grew. Lisa continued her odd behavior, and I became increasingly paranoid. I started checking her phone whenever I had the chance, looking for any more messages from Rob. Each time, I found more evidence that something was going on between them. The messages were flirtatious, filled with inside jokes, and often ended with plans to meet up. I decided to follow her one evening when she said she was going out with friends. I felt like a stalker, but I needed to know the truth. I watched from a distance as she left our house and drove to a bar on the other side of town. I parked my car a few blocks away and walked to the bar, peering through the windows until I spotted her. She was sitting at a table with a man I assumed was Rob. They were laughing, touching each other's hands, and clearly more than just friends. I didn't confront them that night. I couldn't bring myself to make a scene in public. Instead, I went home and waited for Lisa to return. When she finally walked through the door, I was sitting in the living room, trying to keep my emotions in check. I asked her how her evening was, and she gave me the same story about hanging out with friends. I didn't reveal what I had seen, not yet. I needed more time to process everything and figure out my next move. The breaking point came a few weeks later. Dear viewers, more than 90% watch my content without subscribing. If you still have not subscribed, then I ask you to do so. For me, this is the best motivation to continue. I couldn't keep living with the constant doubt and suspicion. I had to confront Lisa and get the truth out in the open. One evening after she came home from work, I asked her to sit down and talk. I told her I knew about Rob, that I had seen the messages and followed her to the bar. Her face went pale, and she looked like she might cry. She didn't deny it. Instead, she confessed. She told me she had met Rob at the hospital. He was a new doctor who had started working there a few months ago. They had hit it off immediately, and what began as a friendship had quickly turned into something more. She claimed it wasn't serious, that she still loved me, but her words felt hollow. I was devastated. 8 years of marriage, and it had come to this. I asked her why she had done it, what I had done wrong. She said it wasn't about me, that she had been feeling lonely and unappreciated. She needed excitement and passion, things she felt had been missing from our relationship. Her words hurt, but I couldn't deny that we had been growing apart. After that night, things were never the same between us. We tried to make it work, going to couples therapy and trying to rekindle the spark that had once been there. But the trust was gone. Every time she was on her phone or mentioned working late, I felt a pang of suspicion. I couldn't let go of the betrayal, and it slowly ate away at whatever was left of our relationship. Lisa ended things with Rob, or at least that's what she told me. But the damage was done. We were living in the same house, but it felt like we were worlds apart. Conversations were stilted, and the affection that had once been so natural now felt forced. One night, after another argument about something trivial, Lisa broke down. She said she couldn't do it anymore, that she was tired of pretending everything was okay. She wanted a separation. Hearing those words was like a punch to the gut, but deep down, I knew she was right. We were both miserable, and staying together was only making it worse. We decided to separate, and Lisa moved out a few weeks later. The house felt empty without her, and I went through a roller coaster of emotions. Anger, sadness, regret. They all hit me at different times. I threw myself into work, trying to distract myself from the pain. Friends and family were supportive, but it was hard to talk about what had happened. I felt ashamed, like I had failed somehow. I kept replaying everything in my mind, wondering what I could have done differently to prevent it. Eventually, I began to accept that our marriage was over. It was a slow process, but I started to find my footing again. I joined a gym, took up new hobbies, and reconnected with old friends. I even started dating again, though it felt strange and unfamiliar at first. Looking back, I realized that Lisa's betrayal was a wake-up call. It forced me to confront issues in our marriage that I had been ignoring for years. It was a painful lesson, but it taught me a lot about myself and what I need in a relationship. Life goes on, and so do I. It hasn't been easy, but I'm learning to let go of the past and focus on the future. Lisa and I don't talk much anymore, but I hope she finds happiness too. We were both flawed, and we both made mistakes. But we're human, and all we can do is try to learn and grow from our experiences. After Lisa moved out, I was left with a house full of memories. The silence was deafening, and every room seemed to echo with the remnants of our life together. I had to find a way to reclaim my space and my sense of self. The first step was to make the house my own again. I started by redecorating, moving furniture around, and getting rid of things that reminded me too much of her. It was cathartic, a way to symbolically and literally change my surroundings. I also realized that I needed to rebuild my social life. Over the years, I had let many friendships fade, focusing too much on my work and my marriage. I reached out to old friends, people I hadn't seen in years, and reconnected. We started meeting for drinks, going to ball games, and just hanging out. It felt good to have a support network, people who cared about me and wanted to see me happy. Therapy became a crucial part of my healing process. At first, I was reluctant to go. It felt like admitting defeat, like I couldn't handle my problems on my own. But eventually, I realized that I needed professional help to navigate the complex emotions I was dealing with. My therapist, Dr. Anderson, was a kind and patient woman who helped me understand the deeper issues in my marriage and within myself. We talked about my fears, my insecurities, and the patterns that had led to the breakdown of my relationship with Lisa. It was painful to confront some of these truths, but it was also liberating. I started to see that the problems in our marriage were not entirely my fault, nor were they entirely Lisa's. We both had contributed to the disconnection and the eventual betrayal. Around this time, an opportunity came up at work that seemed like a perfect chance for a fresh start. A management position opened up in our company's Chicago office. It was a significant promotion, but it also meant relocating to a new city. The thought of leaving behind the town where Lisa and I had built our life together was daunting, but it also felt like an opportunity to truly move on. I applied for the job, and after a series of interviews was offered the position. Moving to Chicago was a whirlwind. I found a modest apartment downtown, packed up my belongings, and said goodbye to Ohio. The new job was challenging but rewarding. I was responsible for a larger team, and the change of scenery was exactly what I needed. Chicago was a vibrant, bustling city, and it was a stark contrast to the small-town life I had known. The energy was contagious, and I threw myself into my new role with enthusiasm. I explored the city, trying new restaurants, attending cultural events, and getting to know my new colleagues. Slowly, the wounds from my failed marriage began to heal. One of my new colleagues, Tom, became a close friend. He was around my age, divorced as well, and we bonded over our shared experiences. We spent weekends exploring the city, going to Cubs games, and even trying out some of the local jazz clubs. It was refreshing to have a friend who understood what I had been through and who was also looking to rebuild his life. One evening, a few months after moving to Chicago, I was at a bar with Tom when I ran into someone I hadn't seen in years. Sarah, a woman I had dated briefly in college before meeting Lisa. Sarah was in town for a conference, and we recognized each other immediately. We spent the evening catching up, reminiscing about our college days, and sharing what had happened in our lives since then. Sarah had never married. She had pursued a career in journalism and had traveled extensively. There was an undeniable spark between us, the kind that comes from shared history and mutual respect. We exchanged numbers and promised to stay in touch. Over the next few weeks, Sarah and I started texting and calling each other regularly. She returned to Chicago a few times for work, and we met up for dinner and drinks. Our conversations were easy and natural, and I found myself looking forward to hearing from her. There was no pressure, no expectations, just two old friends reconnecting. One evening, after a particularly enjoyable dinner, Sarah admitted that she had always wondered what might have happened if we had stayed together in college. Her honesty took me by surprise, but I realized that I had wondered the same thing. We decided to explore this possibility and see where it might lead. Dating Sarah was different from anything I had experienced before. There was a comfort in our shared past, but also an excitement about the future. We took things slowly, both of us wary of repeating past mistakes. We talked openly about our fears and our hopes, and this honesty built a strong foundation for our relationship. Sarah's job meant that she traveled often, but we made it work. We visited each other as much as possible and used technology to stay connected when we were apart. It wasn't always easy, but the effort was worth it. For the first time in a long time, I felt genuinely happy. As my relationship with Sarah grew stronger, I also continued to thrive in my new job. The challenges and responsibilities kept me busy, and I found a sense of fulfillment in my work that had been missing before. My team respected me, and I was proud of the progress we were making. Life wasn't perfect, but it was good. I had learned to appreciate the small victories and to be patient with myself. The scars from my marriage were still there, but they no longer defined me. I had grown and changed, and I was ready for whatever the future held. One evening, as Sarah and I were walking along the Chicago River, she mentioned that she was considering a job offer in the city. It would mean less travel for her and more stability for us. I felt a surge of hope and excitement at the prospect of her being closer. We talked it over, weighing the pros and cons, and ultimately decided that it was the right move. Sarah accepted the job, and a few months later she moved to Chicago. We found an apartment together, a cozy place with a view of the skyline. It felt like a new chapter was beginning, one filled with promise and possibility. Looking back on everything that had happened, I realized that life is unpredictable and often painful, but also full of unexpected joys. Lisa's betrayal had been devastating, but it had also set me on a path of self-discovery and growth. It had led me to new opportunities, new friendships, and ultimately, a new love. I learned that it's possible to rebuild and find happiness again, even after the darkest times. It's a journey, one that requires patience, resilience, and an open heart. And as I stood there, holding Sarah's hand and looking out at the city we now called home, I knew that I was exactly where I was meant to be. Sarah's move to Chicago marked a significant milestone in our relationship. We found a charming apartment in Lincoln Park, close to the lake, and a short commute to both our workplaces. Decorating our new home was a collaborative effort that brought us even closer together. We spent weekends exploring local markets for unique furniture and artwork, and our evenings were filled with laughter and conversation as we made the space our own. Living together felt natural and effortless. We quickly fell into a comfortable routine, balancing our busy work schedules with quality time spent together. We cooked dinner, watched movies, and took long walks along the lakefront. It was a peaceful and fulfilling time, and I felt a sense of contentment that I hadn't experienced in years. Of course, no relationship is without its challenges. Sarah and I had our share of disagreements and misunderstandings, but we were committed to working through them. Dear viewers, I ask you to subscribe to the channel under this video. I will be very grateful to you. We had both learned from our past relationships and knew the importance of communication and compromise. One significant challenge was adjusting to Sarah's demanding job. As a journalist, her work often required long hours and occasional travel. There were times when I felt lonely and frustrated, but I understood that her career was important to her. We made a conscious effort to support each other's ambitions and to find a balance that worked for both of us. Another challenge came in the form of family dynamics. My parents, who had always been close to Lisa, were initially hesitant about my new relationship with Sarah. They were protective and concerned about me rushing into something new. It took time and patience to reassure them that Sarah was a positive influence in my life. Sarah's family, on the other hand, was welcoming and supportive. They lived in New York, and we made several trips to visit them. Her parents were warm and hospitable, and I quickly felt like part of their family. Building these connections was important to both of us, and it helped solidify our commitment to each other. As my personal life flourished, so did my career. The Chicago office was thriving, and I was proud of the work my team was doing. We tackled several high-profile projects, and our success did not go unnoticed. I received a promotion, which came with increased responsibilities and a substantial pay raise. The promotion was a testament to my hard work and dedication, but it also brought new challenges. The pressure to perform at a high level was intense, and I sometimes struggled to find a balance between work and my personal life. Sarah was incredibly supportive, encouraging me to take breaks and reminding me of the importance of self-care. As our relationship deepened, Sarah and I began to talk about the future. We discussed our goals, dreams, and what we wanted our life together to look like. It became clear that we both saw a future with each other and were ready to take the next step. One sunny afternoon, while picnicking in Grant Park, I proposed to Sarah. It was a simple and heartfelt moment, just the two of us surrounded by the beauty of the city we loved. She said yes, and we were both overwhelmed with happiness and excitement about the life we were building together. Planning the wedding was an exciting and sometimes stressful process. We wanted a celebration that reflected our personalities and our journey together. We decided on a small, intimate ceremony with close friends and family, followed by a reception at a charming rooftop venue overlooking the Chicago skyline. Sarah's organizational skills shone as we navigated the logistics of the wedding. We chose a local bakery for the cake, a talented photographer to capture the day, and a live jazz band to set the mood. It was important to us that the wedding be a joyful and relaxed occasion, a true reflection of our love and commitment. The wedding day was perfect, the weather was beautiful, and everything went smoothly. As I stood at the altar, watching Sarah walk towards me, I felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude and love. Our vows were personal and heartfelt, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room. The reception was a lively and joyous celebration. We danced, laughed, and shared stories with our guests. It was a day filled with love and happiness, a testament to the journey we had taken to get there. As the night came to an end, we were surrounded by the warmth and support of our loved ones, and it was a moment I would cherish forever. For our honeymoon, we decided to travel to Italy, a place we had both always wanted to visit. We spent 2 weeks exploring the beautiful cities of Rome, Florence, and Venice. The trip was a perfect blend of adventure and relaxation. We indulged in delicious food, visited historic landmarks, and simply enjoyed each other's company. The honeymoon was a time of reflection and connection. We talked about our dreams for the future and the life we wanted to build together. It was a reaffirmation of our love and commitment, and we returned to Chicago feeling closer than ever. Returning to Chicago, we settled into married life with ease. We continued to support each other's careers, and our relationship grew stronger with each passing day. We made time for date nights, weekend getaways, and simple pleasures like cooking dinner together or taking Max, our adopted dog, for long walks in the park. We also started to talk about the possibility of starting a family. It was a big decision, and we took our time discussing our hopes and fears. We wanted to make sure we were ready for the responsibilities and challenges that come with parenthood. A year after our wedding, Sarah and I found out that we were expecting our first child. The news was both exciting and overwhelming. We spent the next several months preparing for the arrival of our baby, attending prenatal classes, setting up the nursery, and reading every book we could find on parenting. The day our son Ethan was born was the happiest day of our lives. Holding him for the first time, I felt a sense of awe and wonder. He was perfect, and I was filled with a profound sense of love and responsibility. Sarah was an amazing mother from the start, and we quickly settled into our new roles as parents. Balancing work and parenthood was a challenge, but we were committed to making it work. Sarah and I took turns with night feedings, diaper changes, and all the other tasks that come with caring for a newborn. We were exhausted, but we were also incredibly happy. We made a point to continue nurturing our relationship, even with the demands of parenthood. We scheduled regular date nights, took family vacations, and made time for each other. Our love for Ethan brought us even closer, and we were grateful for the life we had built together. Looking back on my journey, I realized how much I had grown and changed since the days of my failed marriage with Lisa. The pain and betrayal had been devastating, but they had also set me on a path of self-discovery and growth. I had learned the importance of communication, trust, and self-care. I had rebuilt my life, found new love, and started a family. Life is full of unexpected twists and turns, but I had come to see that even the most painful experiences can lead to growth and new beginnings. I was grateful for the lessons I had learned and for the wonderful life I now had with Sarah and Ethan. As I look ahead, I am filled with hope and excitement for the future. I know there will be challenges and obstacles, but I also know that with Sarah by my side, we can face anything that comes our way. We are committed to building a life filled with love, joy, and adventure, and I am grateful for every moment we share together. Ethan is growing up fast, and we are excited to see the person he will become. We are also open to the possibility of expanding our family in the future, but for now, we are enjoying every moment with our little boy. Life is a journey, and I'm grateful for the path I am on. It hasn't been easy, but it has been worth it. I am proud of the person I have become and the life I have built. And as I look into the future, I am filled with hope, love, and gratitude.